Let's welcome Gil Murciano now. He is the CEO of the think tank Mitvim, the Israeli Institute for Regional Foreign Policies. He joins us now from Tel Aviv. Gil, we just heard another hostage has died. What can you tell us about the strategy the Israeli government is following at the moment?
And I think that what the Israeli strategy at the moment is basically an attempt to balance between three impossible or contradicting goals, basically. First, the stated goal of bringing to the collapse of Hamas, at least the military collapse of Hamas. Then there's the goal of bringing back the hostages, basically. And then the attempt or the need to provide some kind of a humanitarian corridor for the citizens of Gaza under US pressure, under Egyptian pressure. And the compromise, if you will, that Israelis were able to hoax here is instead of having a full-out, a large-scale ground offensive to conquer Gaza, is basically having large-scale raids, where it's a slowly developing, gradually developing a ground offensive inside Gaza while trying to acquire targets of Hamas while moving forward. So that's where we are at the moment. With the attempt to isolate Gaza and to prevent the expansion of warfare into the north, into Lebanon and other locations.
Well, insert whatever metaphor you want here. Walking a tightrope, threading the eye of a needle, it seems extremely difficult. How much support does Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have to prosecute this war?
So this is really an unprecedented situation, I would say, in the history of warfare, or in the history of the Israeli armed conflict. The will to fight, the motivation, the volunteering, the mobilization of the entire society recruited and mobilized in order to fight Hamas. And we've seen the atrocities that impacted common people and the citizens themselves. But in the same time, the level of trust of the Prime Minister is incredibly low. I would even call it mistrust or animosity, even open animosity towards Prime Minister Netanyahu and a member of his government. We are talking about public surveys placing the needle on 18 to 20% support, something that you rarely see in time of warfare in Israel. So you have really an unprecedented situation of high motivation to fight, on very high trust of the army, of the security establishment, but comes together with a total mistrust of the political leadership.
You know, I'm curious, from your vantage point, your perspective there, at this stage, is it even possible to imagine how peace could be achieved in this current conflict?
Well, the thing is, we can at least agree that this conflict changes everything, really reshuffles or creates a new situation. And there's a temptation to look at it as this tragedy becoming some kind of a turning point. But there are two immediate conditions on that level. The first one is the removal of Hamas. I don't think from the left to the right in Israel, and I represent a left-wing organization in Israel that fights the rights of Palestinians. I don't think that the chances of coexistence between Israel and Hamas is absolutely a dead end. We won't see that in the day after, as we've seen during the last almost 2 decades. So the idea of removal of Hamas, which is in the end a political maneuver rather than a military maneuver, the ability to create an alternative to Hamas is obviously connected to a much broader political move in the direction of the renewal. You mentioned peace. I will mention the renewal of a political process between Israelis and Palestinians with international involvement and, of course, regional. The Abraham Accords countries maybe as a factor. But the second condition that I mentioned, I don't think that such an occurrence, such a scenario can develop with the current Israeli government, which is a full-fledged right-wing government. So once you remove Hamas, with political change in Israel, there might be a possibility to turn these horrific events into some sort of a source of a new momentum.
Right. So much more we could talk about, but we'll have to end it there for now. That's Gil Murciano from the Israeli Institute for Regional Foreign Policies. Many, many thanks.